Hey you guys, how's it going? Welcome back. In today's video, I'm gonna do something a little bit different than what I usually do. I'm gonna give you guys a car enthusiast review of the movie Ford v Ferrari. Alright, so, Ford vs. Ferrari. Right off the bat, right out of the gate, it's an awesome movie. Even if you're not a car person, even if you're not into cars or a car enthusiast, this is still a good movie. If you are a car person, if you are a car enthusiast, then you should absolutely see this movie. The thing that I want to point out about this movie is that it's not so much a story about the car itself as much as it is a movie about the people behind the cars. And those two people mainly in the movie are Carroll Shelby.
My name's Carroll Shelby, and performance is my business.
And Ken Miles.
He's ready to roll, Ken.
Surely, would you like to take a run with me?
This movie really explores the friendship and the dynamics and somewhat of the adventures that these two have within their friendship in terms of racing and cars and developing cars and ultimately getting to the Ford GT40. It wasn't the angle I originally expected. I thought that the movie was going to be very much sort of focused on the car making itself, you know, how they made it, how they designed it, why they designed it the way they did, what they did to make it fast. More sort of a build movie, if that makes sense, showing you the progression of the Ford GT, but that's not really what it was, and that's not a bad thing. If you go in with that understanding, then what you're going to see is a great story about great people that ultimately are focused on what turns out to be a great car, but it's really not as much about the car as it is about the people behind the car. So going along with that idea, what's interesting is that if you're a car person, you most likely know who Carroll Shelby is, but fewer may be familiar with Ken Miles, and this movie was a great spotlight for Ken Miles. So it was a really interesting, fun journey to kind of get to know Carroll Shelby better and to get to know Ken Miles just in general. Now, on the topic of stories and life and, you know, based on actual events and all that kind of thing, I don't know how accurate the movie is with certain details of what happened. I have no doubt that they embellished and sort of maybe dramatized certain things for the sake of the movie, but from what I do know, it seems like they did most of the story justice in terms of accuracy. Of course, don't take my word for it.
But you don't have to take my word for it.
Let me just make sure we're recording. I'll be really sad if this isn't recording. Okay, it's recording. Now, one of the other cool things about this movie is, of course, the cars, and that is basically the seed from which all the other stories stem from. Again, the movie doesn't focus too much on the car itself. It just uses that as sort of a catalyst to tell us about these other stories between friends and colleagues. But with that said, it was still very cool to see the old school GT40 on the big screen, along with all sorts of other cool cars from the era. What stood out to me as I learned more about this movie before it was released is that they supposedly used a lot of real cars. On the other hand, though, I do have to say that even though they supposedly used real cars, I do have to say that a lot of the car shots, especially during the more sort of high-speed races and maneuvering shots and such, a lot of that did seem CG. It was very photorealistic, but it did sort of have that CG sort of glaze to it. But I don't think that can be helped these days. And again, they were very photorealistic. I would have enjoyed seeing more of the real cars on the screen. This is really nitpicking because I really did love this movie. Don't get me wrong, I really loved it. This movie was really well done, and I have a whole new respect for Carroll Shelby. And I have a whole new respect for Carroll Shelby, and of course a whole new respect for Ken Miles, who I didn't even know about before this movie.
Coming up is Ken Miles, one of the best sport car drivers in America.
People frequently know the end product. It's what leads up to that end product that a lot of people don't know about. And this movie is what kind of led up to the end product of the GT40 winning Le Mans. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. This movie was just awesome from start to finish. Really well done. It was really thoughtful, touching, exciting, and informative, and maybe even educational. I really love Matt Damon as Carroll Shelby. I really love Christian Bale as Ken Miles. I think they embodied them nearly as well as any actor can embody any real person. It's little things like that that I think make a movie like this even better. So anyways, I think that's pretty much it. Those are kind of my thoughts in somewhat of a nutshell. So yeah. Alright you guys, there you go. There's my sort of crash course thoughts in a nutshell review of Ford v Ferrari. It was an awesome movie. If you're a car person, it's a must-see, and even if you're not a car person, it's still a great story about friends and camaraderie and striving towards something and overcoming challenges and all that good stuff. And of course, even though my garage is freezing, I couldn't help myself. I had to do the Ford v Ferrari movie review in front of the Dodge Viper due to the Carroll Shelby connection. And as I was walking out of the theater, I couldn't help but think that it would be pretty cool if Matt Damon came back and reprised his role in a movie that showed us what it took to create the Viper. That's a pretty cool story. Even though it'll probably never happen, I thought that would be cool, especially if Matt Damon were to play Carroll Shelby, an older version of Carroll Shelby. But in any case, I think that's pretty much it for now. It's cold, I'm freezing, I'm gonna head inside, but thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will hopefully see you soon.